Yeah.
Got it. All right. I'm bringing now our panel to talk about this. Right now I have Curtis Ellis. He's a former senior policy advisor to President Trump. He's also the current policy director with America First. Curtis, good to see you again. I'd love for you to weigh in, if you could, just on what you heard from the professor there, Mr. Dershowitz, talking about Bolton's book possibly containing classified information and what could possibly happen come next week when that book comes out.
Well, Professor Dershowitz has a very good insight on the legal aspects of this. There's another aspect to this which goes beyond legal. It's not a matter of just what's legal, it's what's moral and what's right. John Bolton was very privileged to be able to serve this president. And I'm just tired of these people who are looking to exploit their privileges of public service for their own private enrichment. I mean, really, he may have the perfect right to publish a book, but that doesn't mean he should be disclosing his confidential conversations with the president. Those are classified. But beyond the legal aspects of this, it's a matter of careerism. We have too many people in the White House and in government who serve there simply in order to burnish their credentials so that they can then get high-paid jobs on K Street or as defense contractors or something like that. And it's really, I tell you, John Bolton, his foreign policy can be summed up in two words: bomb everyone. And he really shouldn't have been serving in this White House anyway, because President Trump has campaigned and is totally against these endless wars, most of which John Bolton would like to expand beyond eternity. So I have no sympathy for John Bolton. He may have a legal leg to stand on, but he really should not be doing this book. It's just he's out to destroy President Trump because they disagree on policies.
Jenny Beth Martin's joining us live now, part of our panel. Good to see you. We just had Alan Dershowitz on the program here discussing John Bolton's book here. He's saying, look, they won't enforce executive privilege in this specific case. What are your thoughts on Bolton's book and what's happening with this, with the DOJ suing?
Well, the DOJ has to protect the best interest of the United States and our national security, and that's what they're trying to do. I think that John Bolton's book, the timing of it, the entire thing just gives the appearance of him looking out for John Bolton and his own personal agenda rather than what's best for America. If he had information that that would have been relevant in the impeachment inquiry, he could have dealt with that back then. He chose not to. Instead, he chose to release a book. And it seems like all he cares about is John Bolton.
Yeah, the timing of it all is interesting, too. It's finally coming out, and now you're like, wait, we've got coronavirus and all other kinds of things we're dealing with now at this time, but here it is. Curtis, Jenny, Beth Martin, thank you, guys. Stick around. We're going to have you back. All right, coming up, us through that, Curtis Ellis, I'll bring in Curtis Ellis on this one, too. Do you feel like, Curtis, the frustration by Justice Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas are warranted?
Yeah, this really shows that the Supreme Court decisions and the Supreme Court rulings exist within a broader context beyond the legal. There's a political influence going on here. We saw that with Judge Gorsuch's opinion on gay rights. And what cases the Supreme Court chooses to rule on or not is affected by the broader politics. And Judge Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, has been very careful. He doesn't want to besmirch what he thinks besmirch the reputation of the Supreme Court. And so he steers clear of a lot of the more controversial cases, and nothing can be more controversial in today's atmosphere than the Second Amendment. So he doesn't want to get involved in a highly politicized or a highly charged, emotionally charged issue in the midst of an election year, because he doesn't want the Supreme Court to come across as being political. You know, everybody's saying President Trump's appointing all these conservative judges and it's going to destroy our Constitution or something, destroy our rights. And so, but by not taking these cases, you can't, there is no clean way out of this.
Right.
By not taking the cases, it's also seen as political.
I got to jump in here. I'm out of time. Curtis Ellis, thank you very much.
For more on Burisma, let's bring in Don Bramer. He's a former intelligence officer. Welcome to the program today, sir. And we've got our panelists, Jenny Beth Martin and Curtis Ellis, still with us. Don, we'll start with you here. A bribe to stop an investigation into Burisma's founder. It's definitely not a good look for the company.
Well, it's not a good look for the company, and it's certainly not a good look for the Bidens at this time. Complicit, if they may be, if you look at everything that's going on with Burisma and the fact that the Judiciary Committee on the Senate side last week granted Lindsey Graham the authority to subpoena up to 50 persons for investigation into Burisma, Ukraine, and the many issues going back. Timing couldn't be worse for the Bidens. But I think the honest thing here is let's bring people in, let's have the subpoenas, let's have these questions, and let's finally get to the truth of this for an issue that's been going on for a decade now.
And where are we in that process, right, into that investigation? What else is being done, Don?
Well, as I said, last week on Thursday, the Senate Judiciary Committee offered the Senator Graham, the chairman, the authority to do the subpoenas. He has a list of about 50 folks, James Comey, Clapper, all the way down to possibly Hunter Biden, that will be brought before the committee, either open door or closed door, that hasn't been decided, to finally ask questions in the Ukraine issue. Now, if you remember, the Ukraine issue was what started the entire impeachment fight on the House side just a year ago.
Right, exactly. This all ties back to the impeachment of President Trump. Jenny Beth Martin, you know, when we're seeing this happen, this interception happen in Ukraine here, we know that the country has a long history of corruption. Do you think that this was an effort to clean up what's going on there?
It very well may be an effort to clean up what was going on there. I think that also as we look back to what happened with impeachment and the phone call that President Trump had that kind of began the impeachment inquiry, it shows that President Trump was right to be concerned about corruption with Burisma and in Ukraine. And I'm really glad that Senator Ron Johnson, who is the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, is trying to look into what went on in Ukraine as well. We need to get to the bottom of it and just clear the air and understand what our relationship is with them and what is going on inside the country.
And we've learned that the prosecutor says that the Bidens were not directly involved in the bribery attempt. But Curtis, you know, what do you think we could potentially find from the Senate investigation?
Well, I saw that big pile of cash, that big bag full of $100 bills at the news conference there in the Ukraine. And I want to see the Biden campaign's FEC report, see what their campaign expenditures are, see if you have a $6 million expenditure to some law firm, the same way the DNC and the Hillary campaign used these different law firms as pass-throughs to pay for the Steele dossier. You got to wonder, just where did this money come from? Who was writing the bribe? Who sent that big pallet of cash? The same way you saw pallets of cash go into the Iranian regime after the payoff scheme with the Iranian nuclear deal. Now we see a big pile of cash going to Ukraine. That's very, very, very interesting, and we really do have to get to the bottom of this. It's a very corrupt country, and you just never know who's doing what. And as we saw, the Steele dossier, there was a pass-through through Ukraine. So it's a rat's nest of corruption over there. Yeah. And it's not about the president and a phone call.
Yeah, when you see that $6 million cash, it's got to raise some eyebrows there, to say the least. Jenny Beth Martin and Curtis Ellis, please stay with us. Dan Bramer, thank you for your time today and for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Tuesday. For another look at the book, let's bring in Amy Tarkanian. She's a Republican strategist and former Nevada State GOP chairwoman. Also, panelists Jenny Beth Martin, Curtis Ellis are live with us right now. Amy, thank you so much for coming on. Earlier, I talked with Alan Dershowitz about these legal implications if Bolton publisher Simon & Schuster do not comply with a request for delay. There are political implications of this as well. What are the types of things in this book that could be here that are classified inside this book, as the White House points out, Amy?
Well, that'll be very interesting to find out. Let's take a look, though, back at why he's actually even written this book. This is pure and simple revenge. He was let go by this administration and humiliated in the process. We now know his ego is off the charts. He started his own hashtag on Twitter, hashtag John Bolton, and now that's being challenged by hashtag boycott Bolton because people on both sides are seeing this as a problem. He's circumventing the process of review before he actually is telling everyone that he's going to release this book without going through the proper steps. That's where he's going to have a problem. Now, you've got him basically selling out his country for profit. He could have very easily shared all of this information when he had the opportunity that he missed, when he declined to testify before the House during the impeachment trial and dealing with Ukraine. He then said he was going to wait for the Senate Republicans to call upon him, which they never did. It was his missed opportunity. This man is going to cause chaos himself by releasing this.
Jenny Beth Martin, your thoughts on that?
I agree with her. This is about John Bolton and John Bolton only. He isn't putting the best interests of the country ahead of his own interest. He had the opportunity to speak without making a profit on it. If he really thought that the president is doing something wrong, he had the chance to do that. He chose not to. If he has information that would compromise our national security, he does not need to be releasing it. Now, others in his position have written books about their time at the White House, but they do it after the president has left office. This isn't what John Bolton is doing. He's trying to harm President Trump, and he's trying to benefit John Bolton and John Bolton's vision for national security in America, who, by the way, was not elected by the American people. President Trump was.
Curtis Ellis, interesting point made there.
Yeah, this is all very amusing. The Atlantic magazine, a very liberal, very left, it's become even more left liberal than it ever was before, has an instruction manual out now telling all of its little snowflake readers how to read John Bolton's book. Because, you see, they hate John Bolton, and if he was writing about, let's say, riots or protests, they would want to cancel him and they wouldn't even want him writing a book. But now they're saying it's okay to hate John Bolton, but you can still read his book. They're basically instructing people that true words pass over false teeth. But in the case of John Bolton, false words pass over false teeth and past a big mustache. This guy has no business doing what he's doing. As the others have said, if he really had something that was of great import, he should have said it before, or he could wait till after the president is out of office. The fact that he's not doing that shows that he's just in it for the money, and that's just disgusting. You go into the White House to serve the country, to serve the president, not to make money, not to write a book afterwards.
Last comment from Amy, and that brought me to my last question there from Curtis, is why not just go on one of the mainstream media talk shows and answer some questions and get whatever information you want out? Why the book? Is it money motivated? Amy.
Well, it's definitely money motivated. But, maybe some of the stations are actually taking a second look at what he might be possibly sharing, and they might not want to get in hot water either. This is not just going to hurt the president. This could possibly hurt Americans overseas and here at home.
Interesting. All right. We'll continue to follow that. Amy Tarkanian joining us live. Thank you. Curtis Ellis, Jenny Beth Martin, thank you all for your time today, guys. We appreciate it. Good to see you.